Well, hello and welcome again to our reading of the Greek New Testament, and we're reading the Gospel of Matthew, and we're up to chapter 23. Sections of this particular pericope are also in Mark and Luke, and in this section Jesus really lays into the Pharisees, accusing them of various things. So we begin, Toti ho Iesus elalesin tois oculus kai tois mathetais autu. At that time Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, legon, saying, Epites mouseos cathedras ekathisen hoi grammates kai hoi Pharisaioi. The scribes and the Pharisees, now our main verb is here, ekathisen, they sat on the cathedras, the seats of Moses. Panta un hosaan ean eposin humin poiesiti kai terete. Kata de ta erga auton me poiete. It's probably an example of where the men and the debt would have been very typical in classical Greek, but we don't get it in New Testament Greek so much. But he says here, therefore all things, as many as, an ean for an, as many as they say to you, poiesiti, do them and keep them, but do not act according to their works. So do not do according to their works. Legusin ga kai upoiusin. For they speak and they do not act. So literally they say and they do not do. Des muusi de fortia baria kai dus bastakta, in brackets, kai epitithias in epitus omus, ton anthropon. Autoi detoi dactulo auton, u thelusin kinesai auta. Now, desmuo is to tie or to bind. So they bind, understand, people with fortia baria, harsh burdens, clearly connected with Pharaoh, things you've got to carry as a burden. So they bind harsh burdens, and then in brackets, kai dus bastakta. This is a form from this dus, meaning bad or difficult, and the basta here is from bastazdo, to carry. So we get this, it's almost like a verbal adjective here. Things difficult to carry. And they place them on the shoulders of men. Again, be a nice men de here, which we don't quite get, but they themselves are not willing, kinesai outa, to move them with their fingers, with their finger, singular. So they put heavy burdens, but they don't, we often say to lift a finger to assist, is the metaphor here. Apanta de ta erga auton poiusin prostathiathenai, tois anthropos. For all they perform all their tasks. Now pros plus the infinitive with a view to. So with a view to be seen, this is the aorist passive infinitive from theaomai, to be seen by men. Platunusiga ta phylacteria auton, kai megalunusin ta craspeda. Again, this is probably a verse to look up the commentaries on to get fuller explanations, but it's roughly, they make large, they make broad, perhaps platus, they make broad their phylacteries. I think these were things they tied around their head, little boxes that contained verses of the Old Testament. So they broaden their phylacteries, and megalusin, they make large their craspeda. These are the fringes of their clothes, which again is part of the religious garments that they wore, so they make them very prominent. And they love ten protoklysian. You see the proto root and klesia from klino, the first place of reclining at dinner, en tois debnois, and in the dinners, and the protocathedrias, and the first seats in the synagogues, kaitus aspasmus en tais agorais, kai keles thy hupaton anthropon rabbi, and the greetings in the marketplaces, and to be called by men rabbi. Humes de me klethete rabbi. But you, we get an imperative here, it's a passive, aorist passive imperative, but you, do not be called rabbi. Heiska estin hemon hodidaskalos. For there is one teacher of you. So you have one teacher. Pantes de humas adelphoi esti. But all of you are brothers adelphoi. Kai patera me kalesete humon epites ges. And do not understand someone, your father upon the earth. Hes ga estin humon hopate ho uranios. Literally, for there is one heavenly father of you. So you have one heavenly father. Me de klathete kathegetai. A kathegetes, it's from that verb hegeomai, to lead, or kathegeomai, to lead. It's more of a sense of an instructor, one who leads you, a teacher perhaps. In modern Greek, this word survives, meaning is used for a professor at a university, kathegetes. So let no one be called teacher or instructor, perhaps, because the Messiah is your instructor or your teacher. Hodemedzon humon esti humon diakonos. And the one of you who is greater, Greek uses comparative rather than superlative. You don't get many superlatives at all in biblical Greek. You do in classical Greek, but so it may be greatest, but the Greek literally is greater. So the greater of you will be your diakonos, your servant. Hostis de hupsosai hiauton tepenothesatai. The one who exalts himself will be humbled. From tape noo is the verb. It's an omicron contract verb, and whoever humbles himself, hupsothesatai, from these are from hoops o, if you're looking this one up. Again, it's an omicron contract verb, will be exalted. Now we now get these woe statements, this uai, which we normally translate as woe. It has no etymology, it's just a cry. Uai, so woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. Hoti kleete ten basileon ton uranon improstin ton anthropon. Because you shut out, or you shut up, kleo is to close or shut, the kingdom of heaven, improstin, in front of men, so before men, for you yourselves are not entering in. Uditus erchomenus aphiete eis elthane, nor do you allow from aphiemi those going in to enter in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, hoti peri agete ten thalasan kai ten xeran poiesai hena pros eluton. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, because periagate, from periago, you wander around the sea and the xeran, the dry land, Xeros is an adjective meaning dry, but we have to supply gen here. It's feminine, so the dry land. To make one proselyte, that is, one convert. The ale root, I think, here is connected with that alethon. It's someone who comes over to you, so hence a convert. Kai hotan genetai, and when it happens, or when he becomes a proselyte, perhaps, poiete, you make him a son of Gehenna. Diploteron humon. Now, diploteros, twice as much as, so probably the intention here is twice as bad as you, and it's a comparative here, so we get a genitive comparison. So it's twice as bad than you, so twice as bad as you, perhaps in English. Uai humin, woe to you, hodegoi tufloi hoilegontes. Hodegoi, this is again from hodos, and the ag from ago, so it means someone who leads you along the path, and hence a guide. So a hodegos is a guide. So woe to you, blind guides, those who say, Hosan omose in tonao udinestin. Whoever swears, now we get this use of en here meaning by. En has a range of meanings in biblical Greek. Here it's probably by. So whoever swears by, although I think in classical Greek too, if you use omnumi, which is the verb here of swearing, you can put an n with it. So whoever swears by the temple, it is nothing. That is, the oath is nothing. Whosoever swears by the gold of the temple, ophele, it's a funny verb here. It means it is of use, it is of advantage. So perhaps here it is binding, may be the sense of it here. Moroi kai tufloi, moroi, fools and blind men. Tiska medzen estin, what is greater? And here it is comparative. The gold or the naos, the temple, hagiases ton cruson, the one which sanctifies or makes holy the gold, and hosan omose ente thusiasterio udinestin, whoever swears by the altar, it is nothing. Now this is the very special word for altar that's used meticulously in the Septuagint and in biblical Greek to refer to the Jewish altar. The old classical word bomos is reserved for pagan altars, and thusiasterion, which had been a fairly rare word prior to the Septuagint, becomes the word for the Jewish altar. Hostan omose, and whosoever swears by the to doro, to epano autu, by the gift which is upon it, ophele, as we had before, it is binding. That is, the oath is binding. Probably meant to be impersonal here. Tufloi, blind men, tiga medzon, todoron e to thusiasterion, to hagiasdon ton doron. What is greater, the gift or the altar? Now we get to hagiasdon. This is a participle here, neuter present participle from hagiasdo, agreeing with thusiasterion, the one sanctifying the gift. So participle there. Houn homoses en to thusiasterio, homnue in auto kai in pasi tois epano autu. Therefore, the one having sworn by the altar swears by it and by all things that are upon it. We get this pseudo preposition epano plus the genitive, fairly common one in biblical Greek. Kai homosas, the one swearing by the temple, swears by it and by the one dwelling in it. Kai homosas ento urano, omnuo ento throno to theou, kai ento kathemeno, epano autou. And the one swearing by heaven swears by the throne of God and by the one sitting upon it. Now that's the first half of chapter 23.